Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Juan of Words podcast. I'm Juan Alanis.
And I'm Angelica Casares.
And today we are in a new location. We're traveling. We're back in Hot Springs, Arkansas, which if you have been listening to our podcast, watching our podcast, we talked about just a few weeks ago.
We were here. It was a stop. Yeah. One of many stops on our last little road trip, and we decided to come out here for a holiday. Really a quick stop. We thought it would be best, and then everybody thought the same thing, and we ended up with a bunch of people here too. And so we are like pretty much held out in our room and trying to hit up spots that like aren't very packed and consumed with people. I don't know why we thought it was a good idea. I don't know why I thought we thought at some point this was a good idea.
Well, I think for the most part it has been pretty chill.
It has.
And we've managed to go to the places that almost every place that we've been to, we managed to go to places that aren't very crowded. Or if they are a little bit crowded, it's outdoors.
Yeah.
Or it's outdoors. It's manageable.
Well, it's not even crowded. If there are people?
Yeah, if there are people,
it's outdoors.
It's outdoors.
Yeah. For example, today we were they have a lake here. Mm-hmm. What happened? What do I have? ¿Qué tengo? An eyelash? Is it an eyelash?
Pelusa.
Oh, I thought it was an eyelash. Okay.
I'm grooming Angelica today instead of her grooming me.
Yeah. So we ended up at a lake inside of a restaurant, and we got out on their deck, and there was nobody.
Yeah, there was nobody. Literally nobody
there. Like nobody on their deck.
There was one family inside.
When we walked in.
Yeah, when we walked in. It looked like they were finishing eating.
Yeah.
And we sat outside in the patio where there was nobody, absolutely nobody there.
Correct. There was
just
absolutely
us
nobody.
And the lake. Just us and the lake and the ducks.
So even though this is like a spot that we liked the last time we came here, I have to say this has been a very interesting experience this time.
How? What do you mean? Like different? Like less enjoyable, more enjoyable? Or?
I don't know what to make of it.
Like what? What do you mean?
Okay, so like I said, we've been trying to hit up places to sit outside. I did a little bit of research before we got here, like what restaurants are in walking distance or what things we wanted to do that maybe weren't centralized to like their central location. Just the happenings, like what to do, outside of the normal like little central avenue that they have where you go shopping, right? I was like, what else is there? Because we can shop, but I'm going to be honest, like, even though I like to shop, it gets boring after a while. And so it's not just something that I like to do.
What?
I surprising. Oh my God, she doesn't like to shop.
No,
Juan,
not everybody like shopping more than I do, but I agree with you. Like after shopping a certain amount, you get tired. You
get bored, and you're like, oh, I don't know. Like, do I really need this? And then you start questioning everything. Like, do I really need this? Do I really want this? You don't need or want, or you want everything, but you don't need everything. You know what I mean? And so you're like, if I go home, am I going to regret this purchase? Like, you know what I mean? I get in my head.
Like
and so
earlier today, I was telling Edgar, I was like, the question you need to ask yourself is before you buy it, do I actually need it? And he was like, what do you mean? If I'm buying it, then I need it.
You can give excuse to all your purchases.
I was like, no, stop yourself and literally ask yourself, do I really need to have this? Do I really want this? Or am I just getting it because I can, or because they're telling me it's on sale?
Yeah.
And he was like, and then he stopped talking.
Yeah, well, Edgar's pretty new into some small amount of not inherited money, but he got into inherited money. It wasn't inherited money, but he got into a small little amount of money, and so I'm hoping he manages that correctly because at the blink of an eye, it can be completely gone. And mind you, it's not like an massive amount of money. We're not talking tens of thousands of dollars, but we are talking a little chump change. You know what I mean? A little big chump change. And so I hope he manages well, and I hope he, when the time comes and he doesn't look back and he's like, oh, he regrets it. But okay.
Yeah.
No. So no, I'm not going to go on and on about Edgar's experience.
I was like, I don't want. Let's keep going.
Yeah. Because so my God. So let's start there. Okay. So I'm going to tell you my experience here in Hot Springs in just a moment. But I do want to tell you quickly. I want to mention here. We recorded an episode. And it was from one of our viewers that suggested a topic.
Oh yeah, that was the episode.
Yeah, she suggested a topic and we thought it was perfect. We thought, oh yeah, like we've been parented and we are parents. Like we'll hit this topic out of the park. And I think I mentioned something and he listened to it and he wasn't not okay with it. He was like, why would you talk about a conversation that wasn't there? And I was just like, I thought about it and I was like, well, it wasn't bad, but he was like, but why would you do that? And I was like, and I really like, it really put me like into perspective.
Of what?
Of like the things that I say. Mm-hmm. That maybe, I should talk about me and my experiences and not necessarily him and his, because they're his. And even though they have to do with me, they're still his experiences.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Yeah. I was like, oh, so we couldn't even put it out.
It was funny because he just happened to be in the room when I was editing.
Yeah.
And then he happened to listen to that part. And when he first told me something, he said something like, what are y'all talking about? And then I kind of thought he was joking because I was like, I looked at him and I was kind of laughing a little bit. And then he said,
that's the thing with you. You take everything as a joke and you laugh at everything.
My first reaction is just like, oh, whatever. Like they're kidding, they're playing. And then, but then he seemed really upset. And I was like not really upset, but like he seemed genuinely upset. So I was like, okay. I was like, but Edgar, this is just like, and so it was just like, but yeah, like when he finally went and...
Well, I don't want to keep going on and on about it because like I said, it's him.
Yeah, but when you guys finally talked about it, then I was like, okay. But then we agreed. I was like, we don't even have to release anything.
Yeah.
And like, it doesn't have to go out.
So yeah, that was interesting. That would definitely put a lot of things in perspective. So anyway, there you have that. Please, if you have suggestions, please keep giving them to us. We want them suggestions about topics. Maybe you want to hear our perspective. Maybe not. Maybe you just want to hear us chit chat, and maybe it's something that you are dealing with in your life, or maybe it's a hot topic for you, and maybe we can talk about it here. Please bring on the conversations. Bring them here. Bring them to us. We might not be any help at all, but we still want to talk about it.
It might be entertaining. It might be entertainment value only. But
yeah, probably.
But you were going to say something about Hot Springs, but
yeah, okay, go ahead.
Before we go, let's just say that this episode is actually brought to you by the Houston Health Department.
Yeah,
and we're working with the Houston Health Department through the end of the year, and we're going to be talking about, like we have been, the things that you can do to be careful, to be safe during this pandemic. So things like going to get tested, things like going to social distancing, washing your hands, wearing a mask, all of that good stuff, and the Houston Health Department.
I don't know why you keep saying all of that good stuff. It's all the stuff you have, the precautions and methods.
It is all
and
that good stuff.
The restrictions and everything that the CDC has recommended. We want to keep emphasizing that you keep doing them. For example, not going into crowded places or crowded spaces if you know there can't be social distancing. And I'm just mentioning this because we are here and we've seen a lot of that. And so maybe just... yeah, don't do like us. And when they say
don't do like us,
don't do like us. No, not like that. Like, don't do like us. Like, think something, like investigate it first. Like, we're dodo birds. We didn't like fully go through the process of like, does it make sense? And we were just like, no, it makes perfect sense.
We were just intrigued, and we were like, you know what, yeah, let's go back. It's
not even intrigued. Like we thought it was a great idea.
We'll go back. It's gonna be cool. We like that place. We want to go back to Hot Springs.
We thought it was a great idea. We thought nobody was gonna be here.
Well, I kind of thought people were going to be here, but I didn't.
Did you? I didn't think that.
I assumed that, it wasn't going to be as many people. I didn't think it was going to be that many people.
No, I mean, I'm not saying that we thought it was going to be completely empty. What I'm saying is I thought it was going to be like a regular old Thursday. You know what I mean? I thought like, oh, everybody's going to be like home or like in their space, like in their area. And I thought they're going to be, a lot. We've been hearing a lot of those, what are they called? Ambulance is coming down.
I think the reason is because the ambulance station is right here down the street. That's why I think when they go by, they go through the street.
Oh, you know what I thought it was for? That was for the hikers.
Oh.
Because you know how everything is like uphill, up climb, and maybe they get injured, or maybe they like lose breath, or maybe they get like a heart arrhythmia up there or something, or something like that.
They all looked pretty healthy when I saw them. The people that looked like they were regular hikers. So
maybe it's just us.
I was like, okay, these people look like they know what they're doing, and they were pretty fast when they were walking. But we're staying at the historical Arlington Resort and Hotel, which is right in central Hot Springs. It's like when you drive in, it's the building that's in the middle, the top building.
We didn't even finish the promo.
I know, well, that's what I'm saying. But we're getting to it.
Oh my God, I thought you were jumping ahead.
No, I'm just saying this is where we're staying. So, but because it's a historical building, it's really kind of an older building, so you can hear a lot of the noise, like outside on the street, pretty like frequently. But as you were saying, the Houston Health Department, not all the good stuff, or I guess if you want to say all the good stuff, but you're saying the things that the CDC recommends, that you should follow the guidelines, and then you can go to the Houston Health Department to look at where the testing sites are, and they're from week to week. And you can also, just look at the precautions that they have available in English and Spanish and other languages as well.
Yeah, and if you do like us and you made the mistake, take precautions even then. Like, don't be like, oh, well, we're here now. No, just take the precautions. We had to make some adjustments really fast, really quick. We tweaked everything. We threw everything out the window, and we were like, okay, this is where we're at, and this is what we're doing. And we, like, literally, I went to the grocery store. Oh, yeah. I went to the grocery store the Friday. I went Friday grocery. Literally, I showed up and nobody was there. Because I knew it, because everybody's going to be eating leftovers from Thanksgiving. Yeah. And so I went on Friday to go to the grocery store, and I picked up a bunch of, like, food that non-perishables, but you can still eat, like, out of the pouch, like pickles and, make sandwiches and, anyway, like wraps and so on and so forth. And I was like, okay, we can have some of our dinners and some of our lunches here, some of our breakfasts, and we can eat them here, and it'll be, hopefully we can do this. Yeah. We don't have to eat in some of the restaurants that are packed, and we don't have to do any of that. And like I said, a lot of the restaurants that we're eating at are outside. Well, we are trying. We're definitely trying. Like I said, we're making adjustments as we go. I was a dodo bird for thinking that maybe, people were, I thought people were going to travel to go home to see people, not go travel to, like, you know what I mean? That's what I thought. Like, go home, not go to, like,
go to somewhere.
Yeah.
Go to a destination.
Like a vacation.
Well, I think the thing about this town is it's very family friendly. So I think that a lot of people that were spending their holiday alone without any extended family, they decided to come to, like, a destination. And so this happened to be a destination.
I didn't think that.
That's very family friendly, and it's very, like, holiday already. So I think people decided, let's go there.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense now. That makes sense now.
I thought that's where my head was when we.
But if you think about it,
I was like, my thought was, let's go back because it's the holidays. It'll be nice.
But some people would think the same way we think.
A lot of people apparently. Nah, but
not a lot of people, honestly, but some people thought the same way we did.
Honestly, it was less crowded than I actually thought it was going to be.
Than less expected.
Yeah, because I thought Black Friday is going to be packed, and it was a little busier, but it wasn't packed. I feel like the first time that we came through, there were more people.
Yeah, there was definitely many more people the first time we came through. Yeah. But like I said, we knew today was Saturday, Small Business Saturday, and we just stayed off the street. Yeah. We went up into a restaurant on a rooftop, and then we went driving up to a mountain, seeing some sights. We went to, like, the lake, and we, just to look out at the lake. Yeah, I think Juan and Edgar went, like, walking on the promenade and, like, in that area also.
Yeah, there was a little farmer's market we wanted to check out. So
yeah, which was off, like, the beaten path.
Because the Thanksgiving meal, that we didn't have any desserts, and me quedé con las ganas, and I wanted a dessert. So
you got your pumpkin pie.
When I went to the farmer's market, they actually had a booth, and they were selling, like, little pies, miniature pies, like individual pies. And then we were walking back, I told Edgar, you know what the difference is between me and your mom? It's like, I bought the one pumpkin pie. Your mom would have been like, oh, you know what? I'm going to try that one, and I'm going to try that one too. Let's go ahead and get 3 in. He was like, yeah. He was like, yeah, there's no way she would have walked all the way over here and only bought one thing.
Pie. No, I want to try everything. I bought 3 cupcakes, and just to try them. I'm not going to, like, we didn't come all the way out here for me not to try things.
Yeah. No, like, and they were, and the...
Like, no.
But no, I haven't tried the pumpkin pie yet. Pero sí me había quedado con las ganas. So I was like, you know what? I wanna have a like some Thanksgiving dessert. And so now I have the pie, and I'm actually like, I'm gonna dig into it in a little bit when we're done recording.
At some point. Yeah. You can take it home. It can go home with us.
No, it's too long.
It's too long.
Yeah, but also this month we're welcoming a new sponsor to our show. That
we are. are. We
Yeah.
are. That's exciting. So do you want me to tell you first what Hot Springs, and then we can, or do you want to talk about it now?
Up to you. What do you think we should do? You want to talk about it now, or you want to do it? Wait.
It's up to you. I'm leaving it to you.
Okay, so because they've been friends of ours for a while, let's talk about them now. So we're talking about Comcast, Comcast Houston, which is part of Xfinity and all of that, all the companies that are owned by Comcast. But we've known the people from Comcast for I think a couple of years now, or several years now, where they've told us about they've shared with us the community work that they do in the Houston area.
The Hispanics and the Latinos they worked with within the Hispanic community with there in Houston. Like, for example, they have their yearly awards that they give this year. What was it called?
They have different categories, but it's they're heroes. I think it's
heroes.
I want to say it's a
Hispanic heroes.
Hispanic Hero Awards that they have in Houston, and it's always celebrating people who are some are well known, some of them are not so well known. They're more off the beaten path, but they are nominated by different nonprofit organizations or people in the community that nominate them for different things that they've done to serve or to for the good of the community. And they've honored people like, if you're from Houston, then you know who Irma is from Irma's, the restaurant, and other people like that. But we've also been customers of Comcast for a while ourselves. So we've actually been using their internet, and I started using their TV because the X-Fi service that they offered us, and then it came with
pods.
the TV,
You're talking about the pods.
little pods. But then also they had the TV service, where it's like a voice control thing. So anyways, we've been working with them for quite some time now. We're not working with them. We've known that we've been involved.
We've had other projects that we've done with them in the past, and this is the first time they partnered up and they've with us to sponsor this right here, what you're listening to. We've had so far we've had an amazing connection years ago, but for now, for the podcast, I think it's grown. We're happy they're a sponsor, and we like I said, we're customers of Comcast, and so.
And you interviewed
I did.
Cindy Roberts Garza, who's a Latina leader, and you interviewed her for your Latina leadership series, which you did on your IGTV.
I did.
Yeah, so she was a really good.
She was amazing.
And we've talked about her before. We said that that she was really impressive.
She was
everything
amazing.
That she shared.
Yeah.
So it's really cool, but not.
I don't edit these. If I did, I would insert a clip from part of our interview.
Okay. Are you giving me a hint?
Yeah, I kind of am.
All right, and on that cue.
If you could give advice to young Latinas or even Latinas, not so young like me, because I would take the advice. What advice would you give?
I do a lot of speaking. I'm invited to speak to young people. This past week, I spoke to 8 classrooms virtually. On Hispanic heritage and Hispanic pride. I give the same advice to all of the groups I speak to, whether it's young students or even professional groups, just any group. Is the advice that I give is the advice that my dad gave to all the 4 of us as we were growing up. And that was to cherish the 3 most important things that you will ever possess in your entire life. And the first one is your name, tu nombre. No one can tarnish that name but yourself. Be careful how you carry yourself out in public because people will look at who you are. You don't want to tarnish your name. The other is your word, tu palabra. Si dices que vas a hacer algo y das tu palabra, tienes que cumplir. If you tell someone that you're going to do something, you stand by your word. That is a very valuable possession, tu palabra. And then the last thing is your education, tu educación. Daddy used to say, you are the one that worked hard to get that. It is something that no one can take away from you. And then I guess the fourth one would be, don't forget where you came from, because there are others that are still there and they're looking at you. Yeah. So, that's the piece of advice that I always give.
You back up on your bullshit, don't belong to me. You acting all sleazy, I don't like what I see.
Hey, this is Angelica Casares.
And this is Juan Alanis.
Thank you so much for joining us on season 2 of Juana Words Podcast. You can find us on
Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, on Stitcher, Spotify, and other platforms. Also on our website at juanawords.com. And we hope you enjoyed the episode that you're listening to right now.
And if you enjoyed it, you can leave us a review and a thumbs up. If especially on the Apple platform, the higher ratings and the reviews we get, the more listeners we actually can be found by.
Yeah.
So
it really does help us. So we really would appreciate it, a rating or a review on Apple Podcast. And until next time, thank
see
you.
you then. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Back up on my piece shit, I don't care if you don't like it. I'm really different, don't gotta show you I'm like that.
Just sharing, really just that we were excited to be working with Comcast, and I think one of the things that they shared with us that's really important for them to get out is just that their family of services includes not only internet, but also telephone, but also television, really an all-encompassing thing. And then on top of their products, they're also about serving the community. And in Houston, we witnessed how they serve the community.
Yeah.
So,
well, if I can mention briefly how I know and the things that they've served before.
Yeah.
So one of the things that they do give a part of the community is a $10 service through the Xfinity, which is internet. Those who cannot or who have reduced lunch or have a very, I guess there's the line where you meet the need. They actually give you, I believe it's either you get SNAP, which is food stamps in Texas, or you get a reduced lunch, I believe, in like if you're a kid in school district, correct? Yeah. You get $10 of internet every month. How amazing is that, especially now in this time where it's absolutely essential. It's been essential for years, but there's no way they can function now. So that's one of the services they do provide. On top of all of that, they also do a couple of They also do a couple of other so one of the programs that they're starting is, oh my God, I can't remember what it's called exactly, but they are providing small businesses with
internet.
Not only internet, they're providing them with resources to be able to get the word out, like during the pandemic, like during the happenings of now. And I think it's grants. You have to apply. You know what? I'm going to get more information when we do the other podcast. I'll let you know more on that one, because if you are a small business, I definitely want to show you in that direction so you can apply for those grants, because some of these grants, sometimes you hear about them once and maybe they're not shared or maybe they're not very well known. And so you like overpass them, and you know about the county, the state, and maybe federal, but you don't know about the small grants like Comcast is giving. And things grants, like that, like resources and things like they're helping, Yeah.
And grants are really helpful. Because it's money that you don't have to pay back. It's money that you apply for.
I don't know the entirety of it for the most part.
When you talk about, I'm not talking about this grant. I'm talking about grants in general.
Other grants.
Grants in general. When you apply for them, you normally don't have to pay them back. You get them, and it's money that it's meant for you to invest. So it's a process where you apply, and then they decide whether or not that they want to give you award you that money. Yeah. So that's what's pretty cool. Like when you get grants, and I only say that I interjected because I just got a grant recently from Google, and then I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. It was a startup for Latinx startup businesses in Texas and other states. And I applied, and I got it. It was in a.
Well, you didn't get it. The business did. Big Oak Tree Media did.
Yeah.
Big Oak Tree Media did.
Big Oak Tree Media did.
Yeah.
But anyways, I mentioned it just because that was exciting, and it wasn't a lot of money, but it was still.
It's a lot of money.
It's an investment. It is like a little bit of seed money, and I was like, that's cool. And I was like, oh, that was my first grant getting for the business. So I was like, now I'm like, oh, there's more of this out there.
There's not only that, but there's resources.
Right.
There's way that they can help you. There's
and for a small business.
Yeah,
right now,
it's essential.
It's really important, especially this year. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
To what you were saying, that it's really cool that they're offering this.
Yeah, I don't have. So I had the information, but I just, how you have information and then you forget the specifics about it.
And then
that's me right now.
Forget about
yeah, and totally. No. I'm here in hot springs, like at high altitude, and I forget everything.
No, but we'll share more about it next time. But at this episode, we just really wanted to welcome them.
Want to mention them. Welcome them on to our podcast as one of the sponsors. That's amazing. Yeah.
We're happy to have sponsors and excited to have them to share with you. But
Comcast, welcome aboard.
And with having said that, you were talking about something about hot springs.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting experience thus far. Let's start here. Let's start with if you can see us, and if you don't know at this point, we're Hispanic. Specifically, we are Mexicans. Like, we're Mexican American, but somos hijos de mexicanos. We're kids of Mexicans, okay?
First generation.
Yes.
Americans.
Here, that. So,
Huh?
The what?
What was you saying? Why did you make that face when I said that?
No, because I was like, am I first generation? You're first generation.
No, you're first generation.
No, I know, but I had to think about it. Am I first generation? I was like, that's why I paused.
Because first generation means that we're the first.
I know, but I never.
No, for the people that don't know, like, I'm like, first generation is that you were born here. You're part of the first generation
that was born here
in the U.S.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that. But your family's the same way. Some were born in Mexico, and then some were born here.
We both have siblings that were born in Mexico and siblings that were born here.
Yeah.
So
and that's so odd. Yeah.
You're like, wait, I guess, like, technically
technically kind of we are, but we're not.
Yeah.
But we are, but we're not. For example, like, my sisters will talk about when they went to school in Mexico, and I'm like, I've never in my life. You know what I mean? But I have family who's experienced that. And so for me, it's like, oh, well, I'm not. So I consider myself Mexican American. Like, I just so happen to be born in the United States as opposed to Mexico. But I am first generation.
Yeah, I consider myself a lot more the hyphenate American part now than I did before. Like, before, I felt like, I don't know why, like, I felt like my growing up, I was like, I'm Mexican. I'm Mexican, and that was it. But now, like, over the years, I'm like, yeah, like, I'm pretty, like, I can see the hyphenate come up.
Yeah, no, we are definitely Mexican American.
Yeah.
Like, we show up in Mexico, we have no clue. Like, we don't know the cultural norms there. We know the cultural norms here for the Mexicans that have come here.
We know them a little bit, but not
much. Well, we know the traditional stuff, the stuff that we're taught at home. But we go there and we're within the general public. We have no idea.
Yeah.
We don't know. You know what I'm saying? But we know enough to get by. Like, we know how to...
We know enough to get in trouble.
We know how to assess... Yes, get in trouble. We know how to assess a situation and get away with it.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Okay, so... What was I talking about? Jesus heavens.
So you were talking about... I think you were going to go to...
Hot springs. You know what I'm gonna refer to. Okay. So for those who don't know, this is who we are. Like we show up and we're straight up. Like, we look like Mexicans.
Like the Mexicanos al grito de guerra.
Yeah. And so here, everybody who's here, a lot of people who are in Hot Springs, I don't know if there's a tension with the Hispanic population and the Caucasian Anglo population. I don't know what's happening, but we're getting a lot of stares than normal. We are getting a lot of, like, looks.
I think,
and it's not. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, you're being, you know, how would you say it? Not self-aware. You're
being oversensitive.
Yeah, like, it's not us being oversensitive. I would like to think that.
The thing is, there really aren't a lot of other Hispanic people here. They're
just like in another portion of the town.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of the public walking around, I haven't seen a lot of other Hispanics. I've seen very few.
So there was a family today, out of the last times that we've been here, there was a family that I heard them talking Spanish, and they looked Hispanic.
Honestly, there have been very few Hispanic and very few African American. Like, I've seen very few of both of those. Yeah. I've seen a lot of, like, Asian,
correct,
Southeast Asian. I've seen that
and like, Caucasian, I don't know, Anglo.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's a thing to do with the geography or that people just live here from that area, but I haven't seen very many Hispanics, which was kind of interesting, which I think probably why is where we're getting stares.
Yeah. So I'm setting up the dynamic for you so you can understand where we're coming from. And so, but yes, when you look at us and if you're listening to us on our podcast, if you go on over to our Facebook page, you'll see us. Like, you'll see us in person. You'll see Juan in person. You'll see me in person. And it's obvious. It's obvious. You know, I don't know if, to me, it looks obvious. So we were, we were doing a little bit of moseying on through on Friday. and it was earlier in the day, and we were going into shops, and we were getting just a few, like, not stares, but a few like double looks, like, you know, and sometimes we would get like dead on stares, and I was like, okay, that's uncomfortable. But we usually, when situations happen, like, for example, it's not our first time. Like, sometimes, and Juan has mentioned this before in the past, where we have been in a room full of, when it's just us, the Hispanic people, or it's us being the token Hispanics among the room. And we've talked about that before here on the podcast also. So we know, we've been able to, like, shrug it off sometimes.
Not shrug it off, but I think we understand it now better than we did the first couple of times.
Where
I think
it would bother us.
Times it was a little bit shocking and jarring, and it made you kind of feel uncomfortable, or maybe like awkward. At least me, it made me feel like awkward, or like, oh, maybe I don't belong here. And I think now it doesn't. Like,
now we're just like, okay, this is what it is. You know what I mean?
We're just like, you know, we still own, like, the fact that we're the only Latinos in the room.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Now people, it's not like that as much.
I feel like we always own it. Doesn't mean that we're like have to be like, hey, yo, what's up? We like
years ago, this was true. Like, even in a room full of Hispanics, it would be like, and especially like in professional settings, it would be Hispanics from all the other, like, claiming nations, like Venezuelans, Colombians, Cubans, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, and then it was few and far between, I kid you not, Mexicans. Even though we hold about 60% of the Latino Hispanic population in the United States, we were still very far few in between in those professional settings, or in those places that made, like, you know, the representation should have been like a little bit higher. And sometimes it would be me and just Juan, and maybe a couple of two sparse people. And we sometimes, you know what I'm saying? And so I got on my soapbox. But
I don't know, you went off into, like, I was like, wait, how do we get talking about all different, like,
I know. Sometimes I get on my soapbox.
Parts of the Latino identity. I was like, okay.
Because
then you brought it around and you were like, yeah, I guess the representation of the Mexican community was pretty low.
Yeah.
In a lot of different areas, even though we're the majority of the population.
Yeah.
Of the Latino population.
But that's not what I'm trying to talk about.
But yeah, no, but that's what I was like, wait, where is she going with this?
I've been doing a lot of research, and it just, during my Latina leadership series, a lot of that came up, and I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And
all I was saying is, I think that, because you said, no, we don't always wear it. Like,
I always wondered why we were a few far Mexicans.
Yeah.
And then I understood. I was like, when I started doing my research to the Latina leadership series, a lot of that conversation and a lot of those topics were coming up. And I thought to myself, oh, I see now the dynamic. But that's a whole other topic of conversation for some other time. It's definitely not a diss. It's definitely not that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying representation doesn't fully, like, cover everybody. So we're here in Hot Springs, right? And we're getting these looks, and they're taking us aback a little bit. And like I said, in the past, we've been able to, like, just shrug it off and being like, okay, we'll mosey on our way and do what we need to do and do what we do best. Like I said, years ago, when this first started happening to us, it was like, like Juan said, it was like a, whoa, that's interesting. That's a first. Like, why? You know?
It was unsettling, and it was uncomfortable.
It was uncomfortable. For me, it was uncomfortable, not unsettling. It was just uncomfortable. But we've been able to manage, and, you know, life moves on. And so when we started getting the double looks, or the small, like, where people will look at you and they squint their eyes, they're like, they're Mexican. And we're like, yeah, we are. I don't know who else to be. Of course I'm Mexican. And so we finally ended up to have lunch at a Mexican restaurant. I thought to myself, it's outside. They have an outdoor patio, right? COVID is still here. I still want to, like, take my precautions. I was looking at some pictures, and we actually passed by, and they had, like, this plexiglass, like, around their patio, so, like, the people off the street, you know what I'm saying? Like, it looked like they're taking the protocols pretty serious. And so I was like, no, Juan, like, I want to come here. I looked at the menu, and there's a few things that I want to eat. And he's like, are you sure? I was like, yeah. I was like, as a matter of fact, that patio looks pretty empty. I was like, let's go ahead and go there. And he was like, okay, well, let's go. we go, and I'm like, okay, please let there be like a corner, right? Like I said, there's nobody there. So sure enough, there's one available. We go off into a corner, and we sit down, and we're waiting there. 2-3 minutes. Usually have somebody coming to you, whether it's like a helper of one of the waitresses or waiters. They'll come and bring water. They'll come and do something. You know what I mean? We're there for like 5 minutes. And then 10 minutes rolled around. And I was like, what the hell? It's like, where's our waitress? Like, or where is it? Because so they were sitting people after us, and they were like getting helped before we were. And I was like literally just a basic, like, oh, what do you want to drink? And literally we walked in, we sat down for like 5 minutes. And then they sat down a whole group, like a couple, like over, like on the table over, like yonder distance, like they sat them down, and they served them drinks immediately. Mm-hmm. And I was like, did they just not see us, or did they forget about us? Mm. And I was like, this is okay. That's rude. Jesus. And so all of a sudden we see a young lady, short, dark complexion, coming to our table. And she's like, starts talking to us almost in Spanish. And I was like, did they do that? And I thought it the first time. I was like, did they just do that? Mm-hmm. Did they? What you're not understanding, if you're hearing me, is I think they went to go tell the Mexican waitress to come serve the Mexican patrons. And I was like, no way. There's no way. There is no way.
But I think they might have assumed that we didn't speak English is the reason that they sent her.
I don't know. I didn't get mad. Well, no, I was getting mad because we weren't getting served, but I didn't get mad. But I was like, did they do that? Mm-hmm. And so it stayed on the top of my mind. And I have this bad habit that I don't let things go. Mm-hmm. And so she took our drinks, and I mean, they have amazing margaritas. As a matter of fact, it's called Diablos, Tacos, and Mezcal here. Margarita is the server. Go get her. She is awesome. She is the person who served us. It's amazing food. It's an amazing establishment. I don't know if there was miscommunication, or they just assumed we didn't talk Spanish, or that's just the way they were like doing things, and they were like, oh, they're Mexican, margarita, go serve them. Like, I don't know. But it like, she had tables inside, and it looked like we were
go get the margaritas.
Yeah. So I don't know. She had tables inside. Like, you could tell all her tables were inside. She was a server inside. If you've been in the business and you've been a waitress, or you've been a hostess, or you've worked in a restaurant establishment, everybody usually gets a section within that little table. So you usually get 3, depending on how many you can handle and how long you actually waitress before. You either get 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 tables in a section. So if, like, for example, if 2 or 3 people are working the patio, those 2 or 3 people are working the patio, and then everybody else is working inside. Usually you don't get a table inside and then a table like outside. Like, it doesn't work, because then you have to run back and forth, and it's just more work on you. How do I know? Because I've been a waitress and a hostess. And usually you get those 3 tables, like those tabletops together, like within the same area. The better tabletops actually go to the better waitresses, or the ones who've established, or the ones who've been there the longest. So Margarita, they send her outside. She's taking our drinks, and she's like, and then, like I said, I couldn't let it go. So when she brought the margaritas out here, I got the jalapeno margarita, freaking amazing. And I asked her, I was like, what's your name? She's like, oh, Margarita. And I was like, ¿le puedo preguntar algo? And she's like, yeah. I was like, can I ask you something? She's like, yeah. I was like, did they send you out here? And she's like, sí, pero no hay problema. And I was like, no. I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, what does that mean? What does she mean that there's no problem? And she went back, because I think at this point we had ordered food. And then she came back out with the chips and salsa or something like that. She came back with something else. And I go, no, I was like, lo que le quiero preguntar es que la mandaron para afuera porque somos hispanos. And she's like, sí, a veces hacen eso.
Well, she said they send me with all the Mexicans.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, she said me mandan con todos los mexicanos. And so, and I think that was,
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Why? Like, did you just assume we didn't speak? And I've told you this before. I'm constantly approached in that way.
Well, I think that that's what I assumed when initially my thought was like, oh, they think we don't speak Spanish, or they think we're like maybe we're from another country internationally. Like they think, oh, okay, let's get somebody there. But then my thought after that was like, well, if somebody from China comes here, do they send a Chinese waitress, or do they,
I don't know.
How does that work? I was like, so like every ethnicity has their own waitress or waiter.
I don't know.
But I think it's more out of because I feel like the population here is not very diverse. Maybe I'm wrong, but like from what I've seen.
But like they would not. We don't know. We don't know.
I've seen, it doesn't seem that diverse. So I think a lot of the things that I would maybe have found like bothersome, I feel that they're more out of ignorance. That people just don't know.
Don't assume.
Like don't know, or they just assume that maybe they're being helpful. So maybe the person that sent the waitress over was like, you know what? In case they don't speak English, send Margarita.
Send Margarita. Yeah, that's what I think happened. And they were like, Margarita, we don't know. But they didn't even bother. You know what I'm saying? Like they didn't even bother sending a waitress from that was outside. Like, hey, how can I help you?
The fact that it was so obvious, I think, is what was like really noticeable.
Yeah.
Because we were everybody else. We were the only Hispanics, and everybody else was getting served by the same waitress outside.
Yeah.
And we were the ones that weren't getting served. So that was pretty obvious. And then here comes Margarita running. And so then we were like, okay, well, that's obvious, kind of obvious that they sent her out here to us.
I was trying not to get bothered or hurt by it. And I didn't get hurt or bothered by it, but I was like, well, you just like, so it took longer for us to even get our food or to get our drinks and to get all of that stuff. And I'm not trying to complain. I'm just saying that everybody else was served before us. And I was like, oh, okay. Not because of, but if they had like I said, she had tables inside. Had they had one of the waitresses who was like outside serving us, like we would have been served.
So what would be
served? You know what I mean? Like the way other tables were getting served.
So I think the better thing, like that they could have done was just, whoever was serving us to come over. And then if they realize at that point, oh, you know what, we're not going to be able to communicate with each other, or there's a language barrier here.
Yeah, but they didn't want to bother.
Then maybe say, you know what, would you be more comfortable? Or you know what, let's go get Margarita and see if she can talk to them.
Yeah.
Or she can serve them.
Here's the thing. They didn't even bother with that.
And that's why I say, I think maybe they just don't know. Like sometimes like is that you don't know that you feel like you're being helpful, but you really don't. Like you just assume.
So I have to question, Juan. Do you think we're just being sensitive at this point?
No, I mean I think it's a valid concern. I think it's a valid concern.
It's not a concern. It's not a concern for me. But it was just. It was
a concern for me when I was like, it just made me feel.
I knew I had to talk about it on the podcast as soon as it happened. I was like, I got to talk about it here because, tell me, am I being too sensitive, or do you think that this would have been an issue with you?
Yeah, I feel like it was a concern for me only because it was so obvious. Had it not been so obvious, it wouldn't have bothered me.
Had I not asked her?
Because I feel like a lot of times when things like that happen, I can let it roll off. And this one, I wasn't going to say anything, but it was just very noticeable. So when it was so noticeable to me, and then
we didn't say anything to Margarita.
And when I asked you, and then you were like, yeah, I think that's what happened.
Now I knew immediately as soon as Margarita ran outside, and I was like, she's not a waitress out here. Why is she coming out from inside?
Yeah.
That's too obvious. I was like, and it was directly to our table. She didn't even like look around to see who needed what. Like she came directly to our table, put our menus down. Like she was in a rush because she had tables inside, and she was like, what can I get you to drink? Like she was like this. You're making her job harder. Why would you do that to that poor woman? Why would you do that? Jesus heavens. Like to me, I was like, this makes no, like had you approached us like Juan said, and we would have been like, we didn't understand each other, then yeah, maybe, you know what I mean? But it wasn't even bothered. Yeah. So anyways, moments like that, and here's the thing also, Juan, that I want to talk about really quick, is that I wasn't, usually I'm the one that looks very much more Mexican than you do. And I've told you this before, and you're like, I'm so Mexican. And I'm like, yeah, you are, but I look Mexican. And you're like, no, I'm like, yes, you are, but I look Mexican. Like I get the treatment of the Mexican person. And it's not to bother, because I am that person who's like prideful, who's like pride, like, for example, I am Mexican American, I am Texan, and I soy hija de mexicanos. Like, that's the way it is. So I take pride in being Mexican, but I tell Juan all the time, like, I'm the person that, like, I'm the one with darker olive, like, skin tone underneath. Darker with olive skin tones underneath, so they like yellowish, and so I just look, and I tan much more, and I look Mexican, and I'm proud of it. But when the treatment comes around, it's me who gets talked to in Spanish. It's me and sometimes it's to my benefit, because I get approached by other Mexicans, and they're like, and they start talking to him in Spanish, like, hey, can you help me? And I'm like, yeah, how can I help? What can I do for you? Do you speak English? Of course I do. And like, I get those approaches, and I get to help people like that, or I get the benefits of it also. Even though I get like the benefits, I also get the bad times, some of it, and I get both worlds. And sometimes it's like it's like I'm getting all the benefits of it, and then sometimes I, like that day, I was like, oh, what the hell. Like, that's unfortunate. But so, like I was gonna say, I noticed that day, if you noticed, Juan, is that I wasn't done up.
What I was gonna say earlier, I was gonna say that it depends on it depends. Like you said, I don't look Mexican, and I think it depends how I'm dressed up and how I'm like looking that day.
It's not the way I'm dressed. It's
I think the assumptions of people is the way that you're, like, sometimes the way that I'm, like, at least me, like the way that if I'm dressed a little bit more down, if I happen to have a hat on, a cap, then I look. I think to people I may look a lot more like what a Mexican is supposed to look like. But otherwise, I have very like Asian features, I've been told. So I can easily like be confused sometimes for somebody who's Southeast Asian or Asian in a way. So that's why when you say I don't look Mexican, and like I don't look Mexican, I guess I don't look like the typical a lot. Like I could get confused for, because if you notice, sometimes like when you look at Asian, Southeast Asian, and Hispanic people, Mexican people,
sometimes they look alike.
You're like, wait a minute, I can't tell. Like
sometimes they look alike. Yeah.
If you're like Southeast Asian or you're Mexican.
Filipinas look like Mexican. Some of them look Latinas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's me. Like I could pass for either. But I think, and maybe it's just that when I go, like in the area that we live, it happens to be all Hispanic, so people will talk to me in Spanish when they will approach me in Spanish.
But outside of our community, you start getting
because we're all Latinos, so like everybody just assumes if you're coming in here, then you're Hispanic. Maybe you just look Asian, because it's not an uncommon thing.
Yeah.
So they talk to me in Spanish.
Yeah.
But outside of there, I haven't really noticed. Like I have noticed, like I think that, I am a little bit more light complected, and I think that because I have those like Asian features that sometimes maybe people don't think I'm Mexican.
Yeah. But so we were there, and I wasn't done up. Like, it was like a chill day. Like I had on my tennis shoes, put on some jeans, put on a sweater, and we walked, we like, it was just like a chill day. And so I like no makeup and that kind of thing. And I think that's usually when I get that kind of reaction from people. Today was different. Today, so that day I had bought a sweater from a boutique here. I was like, oh, I'm gonna shop local. I'm gonna support some of the local businesses here. Like, they're cute. Like, yeah, like I'm gonna shop local. Like, I'm gonna support small businesses. Like, totally. And so there was a boutique, and they had really cute items. The lady in there was completely nice. She a total like amazing person. Like, she was just talking, she was like excited, and I was like, oh my god, I like this shop. And I seen a sweater that I liked. I grabbed it, picked it up. I put it on today. I put on my, like, I got dressed up, like I got done up, like I put on my makeup, like I took my whole hour where I watch a video and I just put on makeup, and I do it the way, you know what I mean? And so put on my hat, like, and I moseyed on out. I went down the street, and sure enough, we go into the rooftop restaurant, and maybe it's a difference, Maybe it's because of different restaurants at this point, but the treatment was different.
Yeah, they were very friendly. I think they were really like not that. I think at the other place they were not, and not that it's not that they were not friendly. It's just they were. It was like it was awkward, and there was like that, weirdness with the way they served us. But
the server was definitely like it was just a table, and the server was like, hey, just start talking to me normal. I was like, oh, okay, hey, what's up? He's like, yeah, do you like this? I was like, yeah. He's like, so I was like, oh, I want a Moscow Mule. He was like, the apple cider is really good. I was like, is it really good? Like, it was just small talking conversation. You know what I mean? And I get treated differently based on the way I'm looking that day. I do. And it's not like, and I hate doing this. I hate talking about these kind of topics because I'm like, it sounds like I'm complaining. I'm not here to be like, woe is me. I'm telling you though, look, if you're out there and you're like me, even if you're from another ethnicity and you're like me, who looks completely different when she ain't looked done up, that be I get treated completely different when I dress up.
Well, sometimes it doesn't matter how you're dressed, I feel.
You don't think so?
No, I think it does. Like, a lot of times it does. What I'm saying is I think sometimes it doesn't matter whether you're dressed up or dressed down. Sometimes it doesn't matter because it's more about people's assumptions about you. And so this goes back to like the thing that we had talked about at the beginning, like when you go, the only Hispanics in the room, the only whatever of your kind in the room.
Yeah.
That comes with a lot of assumptions that people assume, like, oh, you're representing your entire community. You're representing an entire race. And sometimes I feel like when we're in that environment, whether it's at a restaurant and people maybe are like, oh, they're Latinos, I don't want to serve them because they're not going to tip. Then you kind of have to.
Some people are.
Some people may have.
Really
that
quick,
thought.
I want to mention. I did tip her very well.
Yeah, but some people may have that thought or that assumption, and I feel like sometimes that comes through. So if people kind of assume like, oh, they're Mexican or oh, they're Latino, because there's a distinction too. Like sometimes like it could be Latino on Latino, where it's like, oh, they're Mexican, and como que like they want to menospreciar you. And sometimes
sometimes, and I don't.
No, I'm not saying everybody. So like, I know you're trying to correct me, but I'm not saying everybody.
No, I'm not trying to correct you. I'm trying to say maybe that's an assumption.
No, and that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes, not all the time. But the same way, when you go into a place and then maybe they assume that because you're Hispanic, one, you're like you don't have the money to pay, or one, you're not going to leave a tip, or things like that. Things when it comes to service,
the thing is that Mexicans tend to be known.
Well, in some scenarios, in some places, people will assume that maybe you can't do certain things because maybe, and I think the reason for that maybe is the fact that they don't get to see as many people of your kind
in that position,
in that scenario that often. So I mean, I think sometimes that's the assumption too, is that like maybe you're not meant to be there, and so maybe that's what the difference is sometimes.
What I'm trying to say, Juan, is I don't want people to come off with here from this podcast is that we have this complexion about ourselves. We have this complex about like, oh, this is like us or whatever. Or I definitely don't want to come off like I said, like I'm complaining or like, you know what I'm saying? You know how people say that if you're looking for the problem, you're always going to find the problem. Like, that's not where I'm trying to go with the conversation. Like, I know that like, sometimes if like, like the saying goes, if you're looking for an issue, if you're looking for a fight, you're going to find a fight. Like if you're looking for the problem, it's always going to present itself. What I'm saying is that that these things happen often enough that it's noticeable to us.
Yeah.
Including what you just talked about.
And I think that my thing is, I would say that it's okay to notice the things and it's okay to talk about them.
Yeah.
So that's what I would want to come away with. Even
I wanted to make it clear.
Like kind of like level setting and saying that we don't have a complex about it. I think it's okay to acknowledge and recognize when those things happen because they happen a lot.
Look, they're in reports. They're in the White House reports when Obama was in office. Like they're in reports. Like it's in the reports when they broke down like the Hispanic population and Latino population and how underrepresentation is. Like it's not just me saying it. It's not complex. Like it's in reports. It's in the census. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just I'm just saying. Okay, so but hot springs, going back, like wrapping it back around to hot springs. So today we ate on the rooftop. As soon as I walked in, she was like, how can I help you? I was like, oh, hey, how are you doing? She's like, oh, I'm like, oh, I'll meet somebody upstairs. She's like, there's somebody meeting upstairs. Okay, yeah. And as soon as I walked up, they're like, hi, ma'am. Yeah, they're right around the corner. And I was like, oh, okay, hi, and then I went around, and the guy came, and he was like, hey, how are you? And I was like, oh, hey, how are you? And I was like, yeah, Moscow Mule. And he was like, the apple cider is really good. And I was like, like, seriously? He's like, yeah, it's really good. It's like, okay, yeah, awesome. And then I looked at the menu. He was like, well, can I serve you? I was like, yeah, can I have this? And can I, you know what I mean? Like, the exchange was completely easier. And I know what it has to be. I know what it is now. Maybe it's not me because I'm Mexican. It's me because I didn't have my full face of makeup. And they're like, ma'am, are you here to work? Or are you here to be served?
But that's unfortunate though, that you have to like think like that, because it is like you do have to kind of dress up at those places. Like when you go to something that's a little bit more upscale, or that's a little bit more, you tell yourself, even if you don't want to, that you should, I should dress up for this, or I should look the part for this. And so you do.
I know.
You don't walk in there with a cap. You don't walk in there like looking the way that you would normally look if you were going to taqueria down the street, because it's a little bit more. That's not presentable. So it's unfortunate that, and because of that.
But at Diablos, we're going to go eat tacos.
There's a difference between the treatment, but I think because Diablos, where it's located in downtown,
I see what you're saying.
Clientele is mostly like Caucasian, and it's not like Hispanic. It's not definitely not Mexican. So when you walk in there as a Mexican and you're looking like a little throat, they're gonna be like, lady,
you're not dressing the part, ma'am.
Or Margarita, go get your friend. Margarita, go get your homie.
Ask her if she's here to work or is she here to be served. Like, she's playing around out here. She fucking won. But yeah, so
I mean, it's not like, it would not to make light of it either. It's just like it happens. It happens all the time. It happens. I think because we're in Houston and because we live in such a diverse city that we're not used to it. Yeah. When it happens, like in Houston, you just don't like.
Houston is totally different. Houston, like you can walk into any establishment, and the treatment is across the board. Like I walked into Korean, like establishments and restaurants, and Japanese, and Indian and South Asian, like South Indian, and like we walked into places, and they're like, "Are you here for food?" And they're like, "What do you want?" They like treat you every customer. They're like, if they're busy, they're like, "Come, just order what you're food and get out." Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they treat you the same, and that's why I think I love Houston.
I think Houston is like, you'll still find pockets of it anywhere you go. So like even in Houston, you will find like where you will be made to felt uncomfortable.
It's like maybe 7-10%, maybe, but usually.
But you will what I'm saying is that you will find it, but mostly I think Houston is one of those things, kind of like New York, where nothing really phases anybody. Yeah, I think in Houston with the restaurants, nothing really phases anybody because we're so everybody's so used to seeing everybody go eat all kinds of foods in Houston, so it doesn't matter if you walk into
and we communicate however we can communicate. Like
if you walk into a Vietnamese like hole in the wall, they're not going to be surprised that you're a family of Mexicans walking in. Yeah, you're surprised.
It's such a diverse city that we just enjoy the cultures of one another. And we all walk into different places to the museums, and you'll see all sorts of beautiful faces there, and it was different. It was different here. Like Juan said, you do have little pockets here and there. But it's like, okay, well, we're never going to come back here. Like but
it's not even that noticeable. I mean, not that it's not noticeable, but it's not even that often. So you just become unused to being profiled like that. Yeah. So when you become profiled again, it does take you back. Is wait a minute. what's going on here?
Yeah. I'm happy you mentioned that, because Houston is definitely different.
Yeah.
It's definitely different. But yeah, so that was our experience that I had to just talk about here on the podcast, because I want to ask you, like, have you been in such a situation, or what is your story? Like, where did you get pulled back and you're like, is this happening right now? Like, did that just really happen? I was telling Juan, we went to a small store out in one of the small towns around Houston, and I was looking for a mask that I really liked. It was a Vera Bradley, and it was in another boutique, a small shop boutique, and I can't find these masks anywhere else. And so I went back to go look for those masks. Did somebody's tire just fall off? Like, what was that? And it was this mask, like, completely, like, fills your face, and I like that. I feel protected with it. So I went to go look for them again, and I seen this girl, like, follow me around, and I was heightened, and this was me. Now, that was me being, like, total like, what would you call it?
But when was this?
When we were in Galveston.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was totally me.
Too.
I think that was totally me being, like, oversensitive, being
that
like,
one. I think it was.
No, I don't think so. I think, look at us debating the situation like that. I was like, was she following me?
I feel like it was. Well, two things.
I thought about it again, Juan. But when they had told me that, when she asked me that, they had actually asked me that the last time. And I was like, no, that was me being sensitive, because I was walking around with, like, stuff in my hand, and they don't have, like, little shopping carts. A lot of boutiques don't. You hold the stuff in your hand. A lot of these boutiques do this, but this was me being heightened. And I think the girl was just, like, not trying to stare at me. I think, you know how some people have that's their mannerism, where they just kind of, like, they, like, tend to stare, but they don't know they're staring. And so I think that was just, like, a moment like that. And again, that was me sensitive. That, again, it can happen where you're always overly sensitive too, like I did that day, not yesterday, but that day that I was in Galveston at the boutique. And that first time that I went, they were like, oh, can I take your stuff? I'll put it right here at the counter, whenever you're ready, whenever you get, like, they get your stuff and they put it at the counter as you're shopping. Right?
Yeah, which is what I said.
Yeah.
This is the way their employees. It looks like they make their money, or it's part of their job to cater to the clients.
Where they hold your stuff
as you're on the floor.
Yeah.
So I think that she was just looking to see what you picked up, so that she can
put it at the counter,
hold it, or put it on the counter, or whatever. So
in Galveston, it was me being sensitive. It's me being, like, super heightened, and I'm like, oh, did I see that? But like I said, today wasn't one of those moments, and that day it totally was me. You have to take responsibility where the responsibility is for you to take, because listen, right now in these true and trying times, everybody is heightened. Everybody's senses are heightened. Everybody's little spidey senses up there, like up their little lumbar part, like back here, and your hair stick up, and you're like, what was that? that can be sometimes us, and maybe that's a complex you have, and that you're being oversensitive. Then I was being oversensitive, but like I said, at that moment, she had taken my stuff. Like, I remembered back then they had taken my stuff, and they had put it behind the counter. And then when we left the boutique, I thought to myself, I was like, yeah, they did that last time. That's me. I take responsibility for that, to being oversensitive. Again, not because it's so, like, you don't want it to disrupt your mind and your peace to constantly be like sensitive. You know what I mean? Like, you definitely don't want your own complex about your identity and your culture to, like, overtake everything that you do, and especially blame people, like blame the public for something that might not even be happening. Yeah.
No, like, I don't know, like, I feel like it's, like, I don't feel like oversensitivity is, like, an issue. Like, I think that if you want to be on extra, like, high alert, that's okay. Like, I don't feel like there's anything wrong with that, because I feel like it happens enough that it's kind of justified in a way too, to have that mentality of just being aware.
Yeah.
Like, not being oversensitive or not looking for it everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just being aware and keeping it open.
That's a good way to put it. That's a really good way to put it.
To be open and
honest about these conversations. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to be open and about the situations when it happens, like, to notice it really, like, because it's...
I thought about it. We've never talked about this, have we, on the podcast?
Talked about what?
About this topic. About like this, like our own complex or being sensitive.
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. Well, this is a new introduction to this. We didn't even try to have the conversation, but here you go. Here's part of that culture sensitivity dynamic that we want to introduce also. Yeah. But thank you. The way you mentioned it earlier, it was good. Why'd you laugh at me?
I don't know, because I was like, I don't remember how I mentioned it.
But yeah, so anyways, long story short, Diablos, tacos, and mezcal, Margarita, go get your server. The strawberry salad was fantastic. They made their own dressing. That freaking chicken on there was good. Their shrimp cocktail was absolutely amazing. They got like the big old shrimp. Like they gave you big old shrimp in there. They didn't overcook it either. And then the actual mix, my mouth is watering. It's really difficult to get shrimp cocktail done right in a restaurant. It's very difficult. My mouth is watering. My mouth is straight up watering. Shrimp cocktail and the strawberry salad was really good. Jesus. Do you hear me? The rooftop here on Central and Hot Springs was also really good. By demand, I had to try the shrimp because I showed up a little bit late, and these fools, Edgar and Juan, had showed up there, and they ate all the shrimp. They didn't even leave me one to taste it, so I had to order my own. It was good. They were pretty good. The shrimps were pretty good. I had I think I had the chicken salad, and the dressing. It was also homemade. It was good, but Diablo's salad was better.
No, it was good.
Yeah, it was good. You liked your food too, right?
Yeah, I had a pork chop and mashed potatoes, and they were really
at Rooftop.
At the same restaurant, yeah. And and then I told Edgar before you got there, I said, I don't know what it is about Arkansas, but they have
really good food.
Almost everywhere we've been,
Jesus.
they have really good food. And
they do. Why?
It's interesting that they have, and the Mexican food is really good.
Why?
And
Why?
I didn't think that. That you would come to Arkansas and you would find good
Mexican restaurant. Why, Juan? We've said this before. We went all the way to Bentonville to go get tacos.
I know.
And they were closed, but we went all the way to Bentonville. Of course, we went to the Crystal Bridges, but because they had a restaurant we absolutely loved there, we were like, oh, it'll be a stop. Why do they have good Mexican food here? I don't understand.
And it's the same
they send all the chefs, Mexican chefs here.
Texas Mexican. It's the same style. It's not. If you go to California, sometimes the Mexican food there is different because it's a different region of Mexico.
Yeah.
But over here, it's still very Mexican, like Texas.
It's very Mexican. It's northern Mexican food.
Yeah. And it's
like
good.
The spices and the way they cook in northern Mexico, like San Luis and all that area.
You find the same
Yeah. Nuevo Laredo, like that food that they cook there, they cook it like I think they migrated here to Arkansas and they straight up sent like all their good cooks. The food is amazing. The Mexican food is amazing in Arkansas. Why? we need y'all done in Houston. Yeah, but so yeah, that's it.
That's it.
That's all I want to talk about. Food.
Just food.
Yeah.
Coming back to Hot Springs was nice. It was a good time. I think the second time, but maybe in another episode we can kind of go into a little bit more what we started talking about. We kind of went off a little bit on the.
What were we talking about?
On the whole like identity and cultural sensitivity and this and that. So
where did we start though? What were we talking about at the beginning?
You started talking about a restaurant, Margarita.
Yeah, but what were we talking about at the beginning of the podcast?
Just Hot Springs, though.
Oh, okay. Oh, what we did here in Hot Springs?
Yeah, I think we mentioned a little bit. Or you wanted to talk about that?
No, we'll do it on another episode. Actually, it's running pretty long, and maybe people are like, "All right, we're done."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, until next time, guys.
Jesus. All right. And did you want to talk about our sponsor again?
No, I think we did at the beginning. We'll just say again, this show is brought to you by Comcast, which we're welcoming this month as a new sponsor, and then also by the City of
Houston Health Department.
Houston Health Department that we're continuing to work with in terms of their COVID engagement. And as always, we do invite you to leave us a comment or a review if you'd like to on Apple Podcast, and we really would appreciate it just because it helps us to
give us some ratings.
And to
we'd appreciate those ratings.
Be introduced to new people. Like we always say.
So
5 stars.
5 stars. I thought you were saying bye. He said 5 stars. So if you want to head on over and you're on Opera Podcast and you're listening to us, go ahead and rate us. The more you rate us, the more people can find us. So the more positive feedback, the more, all that great stuff, the more people are going to be able to listen to us. If you think our asses are crazy and you think other people might enjoy us, hit up our Facebook page and start tagging your friends, start tagging your primas who think, these fools, they look like our primos over there that we don't talk to. You got to go listen to their crazy asses. If you like what you hear and you have suggestions or you want to leave us a comment, a rate, or review, please do so.
And I really would like to kind of get your opinions and if you have stories of your own where you felt like you were profiled or you felt like you were made to feel uncomfortable because of the way you looked or because of your ethnicity or
your aesthetic.
Then that would be cool to kind of hear what your stories
or
are.
even your aesthetic, or even the way you walk in with no makeup.
I know that we're not the only ones. So if you want to share, definitely would be open to hearing that.
Yeah.
But with that,
we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.